Today's episode is a little extra special for me because it's rooted in my own journey. I've been practicing yoga off and on for over 20 years, sometimes devoted, sometimes that mat has collected plenty of dust in the corner. But about a year ago, somewhere in the early chaos of my midlife revelation, I came across Anu Yoga School. At the time, I hadn't practiced in community in a long while. I was firmly part of the drop-in and ghost culture. But then I had a conversation with this absolute gem of a human, Sarah Klein, the founder of Anu Yoga School, and everything shifted. She said, yoga will mess your life up, and she was not wrong.
As anybody who's walked the path of yoga, when you commit, yoga does you. And it starts peeling back the layers and things start to open and reveal. Each and every one of us has access to this causeless bliss because it's our nature. To embodying it and remembering it, it's not easy. Don't be fooled. The path is arduous, it's long. Once you start to really walk the path, you realize how profound and how challenging this is. When we really, truly commit, and we commit together in community, there is something that is no short of magic that occurs.
It has cracked me open, stretched me beyond the physical, and moved me in ways I didn't expect. Sometimes through tears, sometimes through belly laughs, but always towards something more honest and whole. It's been one of the greatest gifts I ever gave myself. So today, I'm thrilled to shine a bright light on Sarah, teacher, founder, and true-hearted guide behind Anu Yoga School. She's building a community where learning yoga is as much about coming home to yourself as it is about learning the actual postures and asana. So Sarah, thank you for being here. I'm so glad to share this space with you. I am joined by Sarah Klein from Anu Yoga School, and she has been a bright, brilliant light in my world. And so I wanted to just share with listeners of Redefine Her a little bit of my experience and the opportunity and gift that I've had to be working with Sarah, with you all. Sarah comes from 2 Bachelor of Science degrees, and she started her career in corporate wellness and public health wellness, and even in whole health coaching. You did do corporate health coaching first, right?
So I had a whole business called Whole Health Lab. I was speaking and doing one-on-one health coaching. Then before that, I did corporate wellness in many different ways. Like I worked in a hospital and did public health wellness. And then I was a co-founder of a company that would do wellness programs. So we would go in and lead their yoga classes and do their health fairs and all that kind of stuff.
Beautiful. I love that. As you transitioned into teaching yoga and starting Anu Yoga School, what were the patterns that you kept seeing within the corporate world or within coaching that made you question whether that system was really enough?
It's always been yoga for me, to be completely honest. It started with yoga and then some concern that one could make a sustainable career out of it, paralleled the pursuing nutrition, health coaching, and corporate wellness. What I found really specifically in the world of wellness and nutrition is that there is a huge psychological piece to it. And for many, it is a connection to meaning and something bigger than the self, where if our health and wellness pursuits are for body image or short-sighted aspects, the results become short-sighted as well. And the blocks of why do we do what we do when we know what we know, or why do you eat what you eat when you know what you know about nutrition. And so there is a small percentage within the wellness field, I believe, that there is truly a lack of education. And once you cover that with clients or in a corporate setting, then it becomes something deeper. And I kept getting roadblocks within a lot of my one-on-one coaching or within seeing bigger statistics, the needle move. And really my belief is because it was psychological, where our relationship to food is very intimate and very psychological, where the question to ask is, what are you really hungry for? And maybe it's you're hungry for lower stress. And so we can set goals and track your meals. And matter of fact, we even have somebody make your meals. But until you address what you're really craving out of life, you're going to be running up against a wall. And then we talk about stress in our nervous system and our digestive system, which this can just be a piece of education for some, and they'll roll with it and go with it. And then others, it's really like hitting against that psychological block where our nervous system and our stress system and our digestive are extremely intertwined. So whether you are making the best and healthiest of food choices and you're not seeing results, it's very often because your system is on overdrive and it's not digesting the food properly. Our wellness industry, in a lot of ways, has some massively beautiful aspects, and a lot of the issues, besides that small percentage that it truly is education and a lack of healthy food in our industry. And we could go into the farming and all that and our cultural relationship with food, but it's the relationship to food that I find people keep hitting up against. And so I chose the path of wellness to be the spokesperson for yoga, but not teaching yoga. And then I found I was speaking yoga through food terminology, and to really honor people more directly is through the school of Anu Yoga School, which really provides that path to deeper connection with the self, connection with more meaning within life. And very often that dramatically impacts your health choices.
Love it. At Redefine Her, we really believe that knowledge is power, especially when it comes to our bodies and our boundaries and the way that we advocate for ourselves. You took on yoga teacher training and being a teacher during a pivotal chapter in your life when the opportunity arose and you said yes. What would you say to someone maybe in the corporate world, working women, someone who's maybe carrying the weight of a career and caregiving, and maybe even those who might be thinking of doing a startup, all while trying to stay well? How can practices like yoga help them reclaim some psychological, emotional, and physical space for herself?
The health and wealth of your business and your work is directly related to your own inner health, clarity, ability to focus. And it doesn't have to be a lot. A little bit with consistency over a long period of time goes a really long way. And for many of us, that means that it starts with some kind of deeper dive where you really get the knowledge is power. You really get the practices. You get to cook yourself in the method. You get to learn where to look and what the tools are, where they exist. And then you implement it little by little. And I find with myself, I find with my students, I found this when I was really focused on more in the wellness industry, is small steps add up to big changes. And we in our culture tend to have the mindset of, oh, well, if I can't do the whole thing, I'm going to do nothing. And when we're working with the nervous system, a little bit goes a really long way. And so there's so many different tips and tricks that you can establish. One practice is chanting. And that is attuning to a certain vibration. And if nothing else, it is giving your mind something to hook onto instead of ruminating and whirling and whipping and if I coulda, shoulda, wouldas. So it really helps to steady the mind. And you can chant to yourself anywhere at any time, and nobody's going to be knowing that you're practicing yoga and you're steadying yourself. The practice of chanting or working with Sanskrit is to clear the space between the head and the heart. And what is between those two spaces, which very often gets clouded, is the throat. And so we work with chanting to clear that channel between the head and the heart, which often feels like the longest distance in the body. Sanskrit is really a vibrational language. And so when we use the words, we are vibrating at that intention, at that truth. And neuroscience is catching up with this. Everything is energy. And what the practices and the methods of yoga are doing is they're increasing our vibrations so that we vibrate at a higher frequency, and really picking a chant as simple as Om and chanting it. 108 times is a traditional way, and that takes like 2 minutes. It's having these tools embedded within your memory system and knowing when to access them. So you're in that really tough conversation at work, and you now, instead of going into the whirling mind, your mind goes right to the Om. And then you downshift, you expand your perspective, and you can have a creative response instead of being reactive. So if I were talking to the corporate individual who has the call, who knows it's time, I would suggest a long weekend retreat, or if you could, like your next vacation time, you commit to a teacher who you feel really connected and inspired, go on their retreat, drop into their immersion, and then take away tangible practices that you can implement every single day. 5 minutes. If you don't have 5 minutes to meditate, you don't have a life. And there is no way you are absolutely giving your best self at work. It's impossible. So that could be chanting in the car on your commute. You can be really creative and implement it, because each one of these practices and methods is a seed. And we're planting those seeds within what is called our chitta in Sanskrit, which is our personal energetic field. And we're watering those seeds, and they will bear fruit eventually.
Most definitely. And through consistent and intentional practice, we can regulate our nervous systems, and we can soften that habitual tension and really create space for more self-trust and resilience. And really, yoga becomes that bridge between the body and brain, and that effort and the ease and pattern and possibility. What else does yoga mean to you?
Ultimately, it's a consciousness. It's a state of being. It's a mindset. It is a way of living. It is a path to remembering one's own unique courage, strength, potency. It is many, many things. And the methods of yoga, which are not yoga, and that's very often misunderstood. The methods are the practices of yoga, which bring you ultimately, hopefully, to the consciousness of yoga, which is expanded and connected and whole and all loving and causeless bliss, if we dare say it. The methods of yoga are really a path to reclaiming that in any given moment. The wellness industry is really beautiful in a lot of ways, but the depth that it takes to really reclaim your health habits, it is being honest with yourself, getting clear, and going in. And yoga provides a beautiful way to do that. It's not something we do. It's not a series of postures. It's not the methods that we're taught, but it's a state of being. It's also a lifestyle. It's so many things, and it can be whatever it is for you. My husband is a runner, and that's his yoga. It's whatever helps you to find your inner stability and your inner sweetness and your inner calm that is your higher self. In a lot of ways, yoga is really about learning how to lighten up. And as much as one on the path of yoga really wants to transmute, transform, lift, and go up, yes, please, we really must, as we are in this beautiful human form, learn how to ground and stabilize. And through that connecting to our deep roots, we actually get pulled up. And life, let's face it, life is heavy. The waves of life are rough. And yoga is ultimately offering us methods to learn how to work with those waves.
Lovely. Over 5,000 listens, and it's all thanks to you, Redefine Her listeners. Whether you're juggling life, getting your steps in, skipping another work meeting, or just here for the real talk, you're part of a growing movement that's redefining women's health. And we are so glad you're here. At Redefine Her, we're here to unravel the hot mess that is women's healthcare, because niche doesn't apply when you're 51% of the population. There are game-changing companies out there, and at Redefine Her, we're putting their stories on the mic. On our recent 10th episode, Hologic tells us that your uterus deserves a second opinion, and you better believe better is possible. On episode 4, here's Syntax Health pull back the curtain on the business of healthcare. And in episode 9, meet the innovators at Quinn who are using menstrual blood for diagnostics. Yep, you heard that right. So many great conversations with new episodes dropping every other Thursday. So do us a favor, hit like, subscribe, share, leave a comment on YouTube, and drop a review wherever you listen. Oh, and tell your bestie while you're at it, because something is shifting and you're part of it. This is Redefine Her. Why do you feel so called to share it?
I am so drawn to yoga, and I feel really blessed to be able to share it and share it as truly a tool for life. The teachings show us that there is causeless bliss within inside of us. When we are in this consciousness of yoga, when we are in this place of steady peace, of tranquility within, we are in our brilliance. We're in our essence. And each and every one of us has access to this causeless bliss because it's our nature. It is an absolute blessing. It's an honor. It's a responsibility to share yoga, and it's an incredible tool. It's not the only way. It's one of many, and it is absolutely a path to truth.
And with yourself, or perhaps even with a student you've worked with, when you start practicing yoga, and again, yoga could be running, as you've shared, it could be tennis, it could be anything, but anything where you are really focusing your attention and your consistency and devotion. How has that shifted for you or for your students that you work with? How has yoga changed your ability to show up for others?
I get the great honor of every year, again and again, witnessing the power of yoga shift people. What I see at the end of the program are bodies that are softer and more open, and eyes that are more focused and twinkling. And of course, there's really profound stories where people transform health conditions, they transform relationships, work, things that are bogging them down. Essentially, what yoga is offering us is a connection to our own personal strength and courage. It also really connects you to a deep sense of stability as well as sweetness, that you form this trust with your ability to take on whatever life is handing you and has to offer. When the nervous system is heightened, we react. And often that's where regret comes in, because we're not aligned. But then if we can stay in a lower state, we respond usually from a more connected, grounded, and stable place. And so that, of course, has impacted all areas of my life, from parenting to my relationships to how I work in the world. The path to embodying it and remembering it, it's not easy. Don't be fooled. The path is arduous, it's long, and we do the methods of yoga, the practices, so that we remember to remember that we already have everything we're seeking. We have this deep stability within us. We have this radiant joy, but we got to come back to it again and again and again. It's really remembering to remember that is the key. And so every time you remember to take a deep breath and slow down, check in, relax, and gain more perspective, you essentially deepen or beat down that path within inside of yourself. And there's all the science behind it, in the sense of it's your vagal tone. And you can measure somebody's vagal tone. And the higher the tone means the more that person has the access to their inner brake system, where they can downshift the nervous system. Brings me to my knees sometimes with humility on the transformation that has unfolded in my personal life. just keeps revealing itself again and again and again.
I love that. And ultimately, you're not just stretching your body, you're stretching your mind, you're stretching your soul, and you're really creating space in your system to feel more free. Do you have an example of one of your students' transformations?
Many. I've had people slowly, very slowly, and this is the key. This is good medicine. And like all good medicine, it does change and evolve over time. People who have had PTSD diagnosis for their whole adult life, gone after 2 years of a very committed practice. There's been different, of course, medications. I've walked the path with people who have been on the edge of taking their own lives to truly thriving through really committing. And that's the thing. You got to commit. You have to be consistent. But this is good medicine. And this is a path to truth that has been handed down generation after generation to as far back as humans can see. So it works, but it's not the Band-Aid. This is the real restructuring of the nervous system. I have been brought to tears over and over again to hear the stories of how people have reclaimed their inner strength and courage through their consistent devotion and time, and reclaim their wholeness, reclaim their ability to heal themselves.
And healing isn't linear. Commitment and consistency and wholehearted devotion. It's a journey, but it is a moving one.
Where you put your attention, energy flows.
Tell me about the word Anu and what does it really mean to you? And where did this come from?
The word in itself holds potency. It holds truth. And Anu has many meanings, as if you were to look up any Sanskrit word in a dictionary, there's about 35 different definitions. And then you look up the roots to each word, and there's many, many different definitions. So Anu means atom, which in itself doesn't sound extremely inspiring, but let me unpack it a little. So it's the smallest measurement of matter, which holds the potential, the potency. And so the analogy is one oak tree seed has the potential for a whole forest. And that's what yoga is reminding us, is that we have it all. We have the potency within us. We've just got to water the right seeds. We need to water the right thoughts. We need to cultivate the inner field so that the inspiration, the motivation, the uplifted energy can bear fruit. And so it is pointing to the potential, but then also the potency and the efficiency and the effectiveness of these practices. And with that, there's an order to things. There is an order to the process of growth and transformation. And yoga asks us, if we're going to have an honest practice, is to really meet ourselves right where we are. And the step forward that we need to take is really unique to us as an individual and where we truly are in this moment. In that, Anu Yoga School is lineage based because we do believe that we don't have to recreate the wheel. Another intention of Anu Yoga School is to be at the creative edge of evolution, where we are meeting each student and the times right where we are. And yoga truly is an evolving science where there is an order to things, but we've got to meet ourselves where we are on the path in that exact moment. And so being at that creative evolutionary edge, meeting the times with ancient practices, and then falling back into the foundation and the trust of these really time-tested lineage-based practices. Then the last part of Anu is that it means to go with the flow, to go with the guiding hand of grace, as yoga is really ultimately the practice of surrender and recognizing that we do not have to micromanage and control everything, that it is happening. There's an order to things. There's an intention that we'll never understand that makes sense looking back, never makes sense looking forward. And so we are reminded to trust ourselves, trust the process, and don't swim upstream. Go with the current, feet down. So basically, Anu is pointing to the potency and the effectiveness of these practices. It's pointing to the seed-like state of them that can really form into a huge forest. And it's pointing to that sense of surrender and trust to really go with the guiding hand of grace.
Absolutely. How does the study of yoga philosophy, of psychology, of the sutras, and of asana practice really help someone in their everyday life?
One of our intentions at Anu is to provide a practice for life, which means that it's an integrated practice where we add in all 8 limbs, many different methods, so that you can meet yourself realistically wherever you are in your life cycles, in your physical body, in whatever's happening in your environment. And yoga came over to the West, which really wasn't that long ago in the time scheme of history, really not that long ago. It got pushed into the exercise industry. I personally believe that was because that's what we as a culture in America were ready to receive. And it doesn't belong in the fitness industry, as asana is one small piece to this beautiful discipline. The aspects to Anu Yoga School is it is a lineage-based program where we really lean into the foundation of lineage, where when you are in a training or an immersion, you have put your energy, your time, and your intention into the discipline of yoga, into the study, the science, and the art of yoga, where we have more time to sit in the practices and in the methods, and we have more time to dive into the sacred texts and the teachings. And then people walk out with what I like to believe a very well integrated, inspired, and educated practice that they can hopefully meet whatever is arising within their life chapter, within their physical body or their mind with more grace.
And it is magical. What helped you to find your light for Anu Yoga School?
It was a series of yeses to opportunities that were asked of me. When we walk the path, those yeses often come with a lot of fear of, can I do this? Am I allowed to do this? The opportunity initially to start a teacher training was a studio asked me to hold theirs. And I said yes. And then it has grown and expanded and evolved in the way that the universe has wanted it to. And I just feel incredibly humbled and grateful to be along this path and along this ride.
How do you stay true to that in how you teach, how you lead, how you show up in your community and with your families?
It's a practice. It's a practice. And I teach to learn. That those are not my words. Those are words of Krishnamacharya, who could be considered the grandfather of modern day yoga. And I practice what I teach, and I teach what I practice as best as I can, day by day, and I'm humbled endlessly. I commit to my studies and studying with teachers who I'm drawn to, who are trusted, trust in the process.
Love it.
Planting the seeds.
Looking to deepen your practice and reconnect with your inner teacher? Anu Yoga School in Durango, Colorado invites you into a transformative journey of self-study, breath, and embodied wisdom. Over 3 immersive sessions, you'll have the chance to dive into Ashtanga-inspired vinyasa, study Patanjali's sutras, and For the curious, immerse yourself in rich mythology and philosophy that makes yoga so much more than just the poses. You can take it 100 hours at a time or commit to the full 300-hour training. Anu Yoga School's 9th cohort begins October 24th. If you've been feeling the call, this is your sign. Visit anuyogaschool.com for more information and for additional immersion weekend dates. That's anuyogaschool.com. So running a school for 8 years, it's no small feat to have a business. What has this journey taught you from year one through COVID to now, 2025 and beyond?
This lesson was actually shared with me initially in my first training, to trust that the right students will come to you at the right time. I heard it. I didn't really understand it. But 8 years into running a yoga teacher training program, it's incredible how true that is. The right people come to you, and whatever you have to share, if you're sharing truly from your heart and from your personal experience, it will resonate, and we all have something to share. It gets back to everything is energy, vibrating. The right students are going to be pulled to you, and you have so much to share. And it's not rocket science. What we're doing is we're working with the nervous system here, and we're giving people tools to become intimate with their inner world and their inner experience. And it's important to know that yoga is an empirical science. And what that means is that yoga really doesn't care what you know and what you can regurgitate. It is all about direct communion with, or direct experience with, where we are journeying within to have a somatic experience with something. Maybe it's our higher self. Maybe it's source. Maybe it's that connectivity between all beings, whatever it may be. And if we teach from that and be honest with our personal practice and our personal growth and stick with it, the right people come at the right time. It in itself, running a business, is a great journey of trust and a great journey of courage, where you have a calling. And if you try to ignore the call, it's only going to get louder. And then the frustration and the misalignment becomes more profound. And this call for me, as soon as I found yoga, started to only get louder and louder and louder. What we long for is right within the longing. The actual experience of longing is what we are longing for. So to follow that takes great bravery. And in it, you learn about your personal resiliency, your deep courage and strength, and that is yoga.
Beautiful. What kind of person do you think is ready for this kind of training, even if they don't know it yet?
Who it's designed for is anyone who has the call. And you're going to know when you have it. It starts as a whisper and it gets louder and louder. And my only piece of advice is follow it as soon as you can. And the magic comes in the commitment. That doesn't mean that it's easy. And it doesn't mean that it's not going to bring up your stuff and you're going to get that opportunity to really get clear with yourself, which is challenging. The magic is in the clarity and the courage and the strength and the reassurance and the methods that you have in your back pocket for life, if you choose to be consistent with them. It's that little call that I'm ready. It's the questions, not to have an answer. It's the mystery of the question that we want to live in, but it's those deeper questions. It's that call to have more intentional living, more intentional community, more connection to the self, to have more inspiration in our everyday grind, to lighten up, to heal, whether it's for your own personal immersion and to find a more spiritual life, to find a more spiritual community that is non-dogmatic, then an immersion or a training is a really great place. And we absolutely have work to do to lift consciousness and overcome the obstacles that are right here, right now in front of us.
What do you feel like the biggest challenge has been in your journey?
It's the remembrance of answering the call and trusting it and sticking to it, even though the mind loves to chatter that you're not good enough, you shouldn't be doing this, who are you to do that? And yoga again and again has taught me to reclaim that power and that strength and that light and to trust it. And showing up is enough. When you show up over a long time with devotion and wholeheartedness, it really transforms you. And so every turn, there's another opportunity to remember that in owning a business, in working in the field of yoga and working with other people. The practice of yoga is within every aspect of life.
That is a perfect way to wrap this up, because it goes back to remembering to remember that it is within sight of us. And if we hit pause, that's really where our true power lies. So thank you for being here. I really appreciate this. And that is fabulous. Do you have any immersions yourself in Durango, Colorado that are coming up?
Yeah, we always have stuff going on at Anu Yoga School. We'll have a couple guest teachers in the next couple months that will be announced very soon, which is exciting. That would be like a 3-day immersion, which would be an awesome, easy thing to come to. And then we have our school, which is broken up into weekends. There's 9 weekends over about 7 months. And we always welcome drop-ins to that as well. So you could come and drop in for a whole 3 days, which would be like a beautiful immersional experience. And there's always things coming up on the calendar. Thanks for asking.
Most definitely. And where can people find you?
Anu, which is ANU, yogaschool.com.
Great. And on social media, the same?
Yes.
Instagram?
Yes. Anu Yoga School. Mm-hmm. With an underscore
Beautiful.
on Instagram. Yeah.
Perfect. All of that will be linked in the show notes as well. But so thank you so much for being here. Lovely to connect. And I can't wait to practice with you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to Redefine Her. Maybe you already have a yoga practice. Maybe your yoga is running, hiking, dancing in your kitchen. Or maybe you have reached enough awareness to pause before those tough conversations. Whatever it is, you do you. But here's the invitation. Be committed, be intentional, and give yourself that time, however it looks, to come back to your breath, to your body, to your center. Because I promise you this, when you make that space for yourself, every other part of your life gets better. Not overnight, not perfectly, because we're messy humans, but deeply and lastingly, in ways you might not expect, but you absolutely deserve. So until next time, keep redefining, keep reconnecting, and keep being radically, beautifully, authentically you. Thanks for listening to Redefine Her. Redefine Her is hosted by Brenda Armstrong and co-produced by Brenda Armstrong and Taryn Long, with community support from Ineska Viljoen. We're 3 women walking our own paths through endometriosis, PCOS, and perimenopause, and we created this show because we know how isolating, confusing, and overlooked these journeys can feel. Redefine Her is our way of changing that. We're amplifying the voices of women transforming health and wellness for women from the inside out. Thank you for listening, for sharing, and for being part of this movement. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and stick with us, because Redefine Her is just getting started.